Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast and happy fall. Oh, this is my favorite time in New England. In fact, it is the reason why my heart wanted to be here ever since I was a little girl. I grew up in California, but my mom is from Massachusetts. And so even though my body was in Southern California, my heart was always in New England. I thought it was so beautiful here, and the way that the leaves change in the fall is just magical. And that was always something that I was longing to have right outside my window. And I don't know if you know this, but it took a long time for me to get here. I, as an adult, packed 3 times for a cross country move and twice unpacked still in California. So we know the saying that the third time is a charm, and it was, in fact, that. But I was 45 years old before that dream came true. And I'm just going to tell you that even though I've been here for 13 years now, it does not get old. It is so beautiful, and I'm just so delighted to be here. And if there's something that has been on your heart for way too long, and it still feels like a longing and not a reality, I just invite you in this new season to create a new narrative, a new story about that. In the past, I thought this was something that I was allowed to want, but not allowed to have. But now I'm writing a new story, and I get to see beautiful things out my window, and I get to have the things that bring me joy and life and feel like freedom. And that is certainly my story and my experience, and it's yours also. So I just wanted to share that and give you another permission slip to rewrite your narrative or edit it a little bit and create a new story that is in line with the person that you're becoming. Another fabulous woman who has done that and has written an amazing book about that is today's guest. We have Sue Erhart. She is the author of Lose Your Critic for Good, a step-by-step process for reclaiming your spirit. As a retired corporate executive and leader at a large company and a lawyer by training, Sue is also the creator of Practical Spirituality, a platform where she helps people navigate their personal spiritual journeys to find not only fulfillment, but great success too. Drawing from her experiences, Sue shows her followers an easier path after doing it the hard way. Sue's journey began when she realized she had a critic living rent-free in her head, unknowingly carrying it through life. The turning point came when she understood this critic wasn't aligned with her spirit, but was instead holding her hostage. Through her journey, Sue developed a unique approach to help others ditch their critic through practical spirituality, a pragmatic path to self-love and appreciation to reclaim their power. I cannot wait to share this gorgeous conversation with Sue Erhart. Sue, I've already decided that you're one of my favorite people on the planet, and I'm so excited about this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Wendy. The same. I think you and I are riding a joy high. That's the same wavelength.
For sure. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And friends, listeners, I have to tell you, for the past 10 minutes, Sue and I have been chatting nonstop. And there's something so beautiful that happens when you find a connection point that is a connection point that's so deep that you've all of a sudden, oh, you're my person. And we're just as if we've been friends our whole life. And I love that I have that opportunity so often on the podcast. And I know our listeners have it too. We are all plugged in to the same wavelength, and we are living a joyous, fabulous life. And we are unapologetic about that.
And I think that when you start letting that inner being out into the world,
Yeah.
it naturally makes all of these connections for you so that you have these joyous interactions with people. And it's frankly a fabulous way to live.
It's so fun. These are the only conversations I am available for, and they are the only conversations I'm having.
And Wendy, I got to tell you too, like if you would have met me 10 years ago, I was career driven, ambitious, corporate, and thought I was doing God's work by being good and hard on myself. I mean, I just had a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of mistaken ideas. And now that I've let them all go and just showed up for the fun of it all, my spiritual life is soaring. It's just awesome.
It's so fun, and I'm only 5 years in, and I'm just I'm so delighted, and I love that we are the deliberate creators of our own experience. And I think, like you, referencing 10 years ago, me referencing 5 years ago, it's not, oh, now I need to make up for lost time, or I'm so frustrated I didn't know what I know now. That it just was what it was. And we're always doing the best we can with the tools we have. We have more tools, more fun tools. The fact that we get to be in joy. My personal mantra is that I'm only available for what delights me. And when I first said that out loud, I giggled to myself, like, oh, well, look at me. Who am I? Just being available for what delights me. But like any muscle that you continue to use, it grows stronger. And I kept practicing not only saying that, but living that. And I am living proof that it is a sustainable model to only be available for what delights you. And
Yes.
it is such a joy to share that, not only modeling that for my beautiful daughter, but also for anyone listening to the podcast, or anyone watching my Instagram, or anyone watching me globetrot all over the world. At the time that this is reaching the ears of our beautiful listeners, I'll be in France, and I will have been there since mid-August, and I'm not coming home until mid-October. So it's just, it's really good to be me.
And you mentioned a little bit about not wanting to regret what came before.
Yeah.
I actually see that how I was before, which I see as a forgetting of who I truly am,
Mm,
simply added to the
yeah.
sweetness and joy of now remembering who I truly am.
Yeah.
And I think the progression is just fabulous, divinely orchestrated. And I'm completely with you. Living a life where you're following your fun, following your excitement, doing what pleases you, is where it's all at. And it's where I finally feel completely divinely connected and in touch
Mm,
with my inner wisdom. And again, it's so funny to me because I think back to the ideas I held years ago, or particularly early in my career, where I thought that my highest best purpose was rule following.
same.
I thought my highest best purpose was showing up and delivering to people what they needed from me, giving up
Mhm.
myself. I thought that made me a good person.
Mhm.
And now I look back and I just laugh of how backwards I had it and how much easier life is
Um,
once you tune into that authenticity.
So, how did you give yourself permission to make that shift?
So at some point, like midlife, I had this really good life. I had a good job, great relationships, beautiful children, felt financially stable. I mean, all the things, okay, that we all sort of strive for here in the United States. I was living a really good life. And yet, there was this little voice inside of me that said, we want joy. We want more.
Mm.
And I resisted it for a little while because I felt like it was almost greedy to want more from
Sure.
life than what I had because it was
Yeah.
a really, really good life. Um, but I did something that was very out of character for me. And I said, I'm going to go on this spiritual exploration and really kind of dig deep in it. But my one rule of thumb is that I'm going to just follow whatever feels fun or interesting to me. I'm just going to
Mm.
let that be my guide, my own personal interest. And again, I was a very career oriented, linear person, the kind of person at work who you could give her any mess. She cleaned it up. I got it done. So for me to say that I was going to do something simply because it was going to be fun for me was like an act of liberation where I
For
set myself
sure.
free. And I just went on this journey of exploring modalities, exploring different authors, exploring my own mind by writing, and really just found my way. And more importantly, found my voice. And that led to my writing career.
I love that so much. Okay, I have so many so many questions
Yes.
and so much to say about that. It's such a beautiful that phrase, "I found my voice," is so empowering. Every time I hear that from anybody, it fills me with just chills because there's something so beautiful about the intersection of finding your voice and having something to say. Like having this conviction, having this knowing, having this certainty, and the audience of one. Like, I am living this life for me, which is not turning my back on my responsibilities or anybody that's counting on me or anyone I'm in relationship with. It's actually enhancing all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like our conditioning, or at least mine personally, much like you, giving everything that I had to help everyone else's
Mm-hmm.
experience be better, I actually believed that doing that was what made my experience better. And no one was complaining that I was, setting myself on fire so they'd be warm enough. And I was actually saying, oh, no, this makes me a good girl. This makes
Mm-hmm.
me a good Christian. And God never told me to do that either. But these systems of, people also doing the best they can. And I believe everyone was well meaning and it wasn't all in service to my personal highest and best,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I'm making other choices now. But this idea of shifting from compliance and shifting from that doesn't make you a bad person. And the world, in fact, does continue to spin. And believe it or not, people can actually take care of themselves. They don't need me, even though I thought I was more equipped to do a better job than they were doing for themselves. But I don't know if you follow Terry Cole. Her work is a lot around boundaries. She wrote the book Boundary Boss, and she has coined the phrase of a high functioning codependent, which is someone who just cannot tolerate the feeling of somebody else experiencing the consequences of their actions or inactions. And so I was trying to navigate the comfort level of everybody else and create all the conditions that I thought were going to be best for them. And finding out, first of all, that that's impossible job. I was exhausted because that is exhausting. And also, it wasn't in service to them and it wasn't in service to me.
Mhm. Well, Wendy, thank you, because that's actually a great segue for me to talk about my book, Lose Your Critic for Good.
Mm.
And I see, and I'll talk here in a minute about the way I see the critic showing up for a lot of people. But I see the critic as the single biggest block between each of us and alignment with our inner being. So if you
Mm.
are seeking alignment, and are wondering why you're not feeling that energy, getting to that place, or getting the things that you want, it is likely that you have some critic behaviors that are just part of some patterning and conditioning. So let me just talk about what I see as critic behaviors. So the first and most common is being critical of yourself, of others, of life, of just picking things apart, looking for the negative. I mean, that's the very, very typical critic that many of us have. But the critic shows up in a lot of other ways. The second way I see the critic show up for a lot of people is what I call playing small. You know, they set only goals that they think are achievable or
Mm.
possible. They just sort of keep themselves small and they're light contained. And that is, again, I think a critic mentality. The third way I see the critics show up is just what you were talking about. It's people who have this ingrained belief that others come first and that their goodness emanates from giving themselves away so that someone else has this wonderful life. And again, I think that's critic and it's false thinking and it's a critic mentality. The fourth way I see the critics show up is people who settle, who go around saying, "Oh, what I have in life is enough. You know, just this is enough. I'll settle for this, or you know, this is what I truly wanted, but this is good enough." I mean, so I see that settling behavior. And then the last thing I see as far as the critic showing up is people who feel that it's their lot in life to conform, to show up a certain way in different life situations, to dress a certain way, to talk a certain way, whatever it might be, but it's conformance. And all of those I put under the big umbrella of, I call it the critic, because they're a group of ideas that are controlling your behavior. And once you do the work of losing the critic, you hit and reach that alignment with your inner being. And it's really
Mm.
beautiful.
Mm. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you wrote a book. I'm so happy that you're here. What do you suggest? Like, do you start with the one of those, were there five or six?
There are five.
Do you start with one of the five that you feel is the least of your trouble? Or do you start with like, oh my gosh, it's that one?
No. And so, what I would say, that list is intended to simply open your eyes to the critic in your life. Because again, I think I'll go back to my personal experience. I thought settling made me a good person. I thought shining my light and giving my light to others made me good and holy.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first thing is really simply just noticing all of those things as false behaviors and really the
Yeah.
false self. And frankly, I see them as all egoic actions, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So what I would say is just acknowledge that. Then it kind of doesn't matter how it shows up for you. Then it's a matter of coaxing your inner wisdom, your inner spirit, the true you, to come forward and kind of break down some of those old patterns of behavior. And so it's a very positive action, not necessarily a negative one, but it's bringing your spirit forward in life and letting it lead.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love the way that you've done that in your decision. I'm going to do what sounds fun or interesting. Because I think that when we've decided, okay, something needs to change. And by something, we mean all things
Yeah.
need to change. How in the world am I ever going to get from where I am to where I desire to be? And then immediately, that critic and our brain is trying to keep us safe. And there's no evidence that we've ever done this in a way that is only fun and interesting
Mm-hmm.
and delightful. So, how do we make that shift
Mm-hmm.
and believe that it will work besides watching you and reading your book or
Yeah.
watching me do it and listening to the podcast? How do we take that first step?
Okay. So everything that I write about, in fact, my website and my weekly newsletter is called Practical Spirituality. All right.
Love
So
it.
what I love to give are clear, actionable things that you can do today to shift these patterns of behavior, of thought that you took on and that are sort of keeping you small. So I teach lots of different techniques. Now, it's not like, okay, here it is, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
In our abundant universe, there are infinite ways to do this work. And what I like to do is to give people tools and exercises that they can adopt today to begin seeing their thinking, seeing their patterns,
Mm.
practicing more positive ideas, and really just shifting their energy and their mindset to better align with their own core essence, with their true selves, and be more authentic in how they're expressing. And depending on how deep and entrenched those limiting beliefs are, it could take a little bit of time. So the way my book is organized, it's a 28-day program, and each day provides you an essay. So where I write, and I see the writing as really opening your mind to new ideas and letting these concepts sort of seep into your consciousness. And then I give you a very specific exercise to do that day to try. And some of these exercises I hear from people have become their new daily habit. Some of them are exercises they do occasionally, but they're all what I would say free, easy, universal resources that you can tap at any moment to get more in touch with the true you. And once you do that, life gets really sweet.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it's so perfectly named of practical spirituality because it's so interesting because I feel like just in thinking back on my own process, I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I'm learning these new things, but how in the world am I ever going to shift this 50 plus year trajectory in this opposite direction, like turning this giant ship around? And then fast forward 5 years, like, oh, well, you just do it, which sounds too simple. And so I'm so grateful for your your book and your teachings and the way that you've broken it down so that people can follow instead of having it just be this um well, you just do it.
That's exactly right. And really, it's where the magic happens when you get down into your daily life, because we can all hear these big spiritual concepts and say, oh, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good. And then you have to go to work and you have to sit through a meeting that you don't enjoy. And so, I talk about how to practically rewire your brain and the pathways and how to bring that right down into your life, where you're doing the laundry, where you are showing up for life tasks that you don't enjoy. I mean, all of those things, like bringing these teachings to all of it. And once you do, that is really where you are then in what I would say, a daily dance with the divine that
Hmm.
is just magical. It's really fun.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And you said something earlier that I thought was so fascinating that you said in these practices, you see your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yes.
you expound on that, please?
Yes. I think that is, um, I grew up in a traditional religious background and
Me too.
then found myself pulling away from some of those traditional practices so I could find my own way and my own set of beliefs. But if there was one thing that I want people who come from those backgrounds to see and to understand, and it's that their thinking affects their life.
Mhm.
And I think that many traditional religions put so much emphasis on actions and behaviors as if thoughts are free.
Mhm.
And you can think whatever you want, but as long as you do the right action, and I just really want to pull everyone back and say, no, it's all about your thinking. So many of the tools I teach help you to see your thinking, so that you can see these limitations you're putting on your energy, so that you can see the mistaken beliefs that have crept into your system that just simply aren't true. And you're carrying them around. And it's up to you. You have free will, and it's up to you to let them go. And I see it as a very spiritual practice. When I set an intention to let go of a specific limiting belief, I find almost immediate relief from it.
Right? Right? It's
Mhm.
so good. And then you can just think that thought again and access the relief again,
Mhm.
and think it again and access the relief. And that is, I mean, that is the work, right? It is a practice. It is a continual refining, but it's not, for me at least, and I'm assuming for you, it's not something that's like, oh my gosh, I just have to do this now for the rest of my life. And it's so hard. There's something happens when you see the results of
Mhm.
your practice that, for me, makes it all seem worth it. I spent quite a long time on my journey to be a mother. And in fact, 24 Mother's Days between when I decided that I was ready until somebody small actually lived in my house and called me that. And even though different things and different processes, and it was taking literally forever, as soon as we got our referral from China, we adopted Amelia from China after many things in, trying ourselves. And then also when we switched over to China, it was supposed to be 8 to 12 months, and we were in the queue for 10 years. But then once I got the referral, I was like, oh, well, that wasn't so long. And I think because I was living the life I had until I got the one I wanted, that was also something that helped. But in bringing it back to these spiritual practices, I implemented a morning routine about 4.5 years ago now. And I get up at 4:45 every morning, and I read and journal and pray and meditate and drink coffee and all these beautiful things. And because the results are so tangible to me, 4:45 can't come early enough. Like, I'm just not even available to not do that.
Mhm.
So that it is, this practice is has a very quick return. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm done now, I've got my quick return. It's motivation to keep it up because the expansion is so delicious.
It is. And I have a similar morning routine. I get up every morning, make a delicious cup of coffee, I savor it, and then I write. And same, I love it. Sometimes I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying, oh, it's probably too early to get up. I'll disturb everybody in the household. But I do want to say, for your listeners, I think so many of us in this culture get this idea like, well, I need to copy someone else's morning
Right.
routine to get their success. And I just want to push and say, because I was someone for a lot of years who had ideas like that. And the key is not the morning routine. The key is your motivation. And what I would encourage people and what I teach people to do is to get up in that morning and make that time sacred to do what you truly want and what you truly enjoy. So if that means you sit outside and simply listen to birds, that's what you do. And if it means that you go out on a walk and you truly truly love it and can't wait to get out on that walk, then you go. But so many of us use that first morning hour or two to force ourselves to do something we think we should be doing. And in that
Mhm.
way, we deny our core essence, we deny the self, and we set up patterns of not listening to ourselves. So I guess I'm just passionate about telling people
Right.
find the morning routine that you love. And if that
Yes.
means simply starting with, I'm going to have a cup of coffee and just sit here for a little bit, do it. Just do it.
Right. I could not agree more. We try to compensate with action sometimes what we haven't done energetically, right?
Exactly.
So, exactly what you said. You can't copy somebody else's path and expect the same results if you're not feeling it, if you're not that why of why you're doing it and the good feeling of it, the delight, the fun, the interest. If you just feel like, oh my gosh, if I just had 10 minutes of silence just to myself, yay, there's your new morning routine. And if that works better for you at night, yay, there's your new evening routine. But we really can implement these practices even in the midst of very, very busy days, even in the midst of other people living in our house. We just know, finding out, investigating what's important to you in this moment. And it can change. A queen can change her mind. And you have agency and you can course correct, and it can look any way that you need it to feel the beautiful feeling of results that you're looking for.
Yet, before I did the work to lose my critic, I went through my day literally asking this question: what should I do
Mm-hmm.
next? As if there was an unwritten rule book that told me what I should be doing. And it was so ingrained, it took me a long time to even see that that's how I
Yeah.
was running my life. And when you are constantly chasing the shoulds, which in my view are all false ideas about what you're supposed to be doing, your mind is just completely engaged in cycling ahead and trying to read the room, figure out the rules. I mean, it's exhausting. So if you are exhausted at the end of the day, I often see that it's because you're more focused on what you should be doing than what you
Mm.
want to be doing. And that is another core spiritual practice that I engage in and that I teach. And that is saying the words as often as I can, I want, even if I only say them to myself. And here's another place where I see so many people who struggle to put those two words together, or even struggle to say, I don't know what I want. I mean, they can't,
Right.
they can't even come up with something. And so that to me is a skill. It's a spiritual skill because I see my soul as the keeper of my wants, my passion, my desires, and my interests. Every time I say the words I want, I'm anchoring to that core inner being and strengthening my connection with myself. And so that's another thing that I teach in the book.
Oh my gosh, it's so good, Sue. I love all of it. And these words are so important, and they were not a part of my vocabulary. I, in fact, remember being encouraged to not want because then you won't be disappointed.
Or that your wants will be your downfall, that they will lead, by wanting, it will lead to bad things coming into your life.
Oh
I mean, be
my
careful what you
gosh.
wish for, is what we were all
Right.
told.
Who are these people?
Mm-hmm.
And why were they in charge? I
Yeah.
don't understand. Oh gosh, it's such beautiful work. It's such a gorgeous invitation that you are calling your readers into, and and the listeners of this podcast and everyone who's in earshot of what either you or I are saying at any given moment, that we're invited to want. In fact, more. More is the mantra of the universe. Like, you get to not only want, but you get to be that and have that and encourage that in other people, and everybody wins. Even this concept of saying yes to yourself, it's countercultural to the way that I formerly spent my days. And I really, really have seen that everybody wins when I say yes to myself. And it is an invitation for them to say yes to themselves as well, because then we're all feel better. And then we are living in more harmony and cohesion. It's just, it is the path to all good things.
It truly is. And what helped me a lot with the concept of more, because I used to be ashamed that I wanted more, as if, again, that I was greedy or somehow not appreciative of what I had. But once you embrace the idea that you are an eternal being, you will then realize forever more will be in front of you. Okay?
Right.
You will always be in a spot forever and ever and ever where you love what is, you love what is in your life, you appreciate it, you savor it, you see it as divinely perfect for who you are, and there's always more out in front of you. And I laugh because I say, if I have a great day, I don't wake up the next morning and say, well, today I'll have a less great day. No, I want more. I want more great days. And I think that's how we are wired. I think that that is natural. The second thing that really helped me is once I stepped into an understanding that my wants, desires, curiosities, and interests were communications from my soul showing
Mm.
me where to go, then I stepped into a willingness to follow them. Whereas for a lot of years, I repressed them. I kind of put what I wanted last. Again, I was doing the shoulds, and then my want would be the reward after I did everything I should. And now that I've flipped that completely and started with my wants, again, my life has just blossomed. It's just completely transformed.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I'm loving this conversation so much and realize I didn't even ask you the question I'm supposed to ask you. So I'm really interested to hear how you're saying yes to yourself in this season and how it interplays with all of this beautiful yumminess
Mm-hmm.
that we've already been talking about.
So so for me, saying yes to myself is literally waking up each morning and saying, what excites me today? What am I interested in? What would be fun? I mean, I literally set an intention and say, like, I want to have fun today. And then I go do whatever feels most compelling. And sometimes that means I'm doing several issues of my free weekly newsletter and batching those and getting them loaded up. Sometimes that means I head outside on a walk and have a good time. And sometimes that means that I do life tasks, like I get the laundry done or whatever. But the point is, I just simply keep showing up and saying, what do I want here? What's next for me? And I follow that. So I call that taking intuitive next actions. And by
Mm.
taking intuitive next actions, I am consistently uh, affirming me and then taking action. And for a long time, I was scared about doing that because I thought that if I just did what I wanted, I would lay on the couch and just consume content all day. And and I will say there probably was a period where I kind of went through a lull like that, which was important. But once you tear down this critic and you let this inner spirit come forward, what I have found is the end result is super productivity. I mean, like
Right.
I accomplish so much and it's joyous and it's fun and it's easy. I don't see any hurdles. I don't see any fears. I just take action and go and have a good time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love what you said about allowing yourself to do that thing that sounds very decadent and potentially a slippery slope to homelessness. Because I, my guilty pleasure is Grey's Anatomy. That show, I've not even watched the entire, I think there's like 18 seasons or something of that show. But if I'm on a plane and it has a few episodes of whatever season, I can watch it and be right in there, even though I don't even know how Derek died. So I'm very eager. And I was nervous to get Netflix because Grey's Anatomy was there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I will not do anything but watch this show because I know how I am about it. And all to say, I have access to this now. I've watched 3 episodes. I feel very satisfied knowing that I'm allowed to engage in this, and there are so many things that delight me. I'm actually not going to sit on the couch and watch 18 seasons of Grey's Anatomy to the end of me. We think it's going to be like, oh my gosh, if I do that, I'm just going all in. But there's something in the allowing that almost satisfies the whole thing than doing it.
Yes. And I would also say in the denying of a want,
Right?
an interest, and a curiosity, the want simply grows stronger and stronger.
Yes.
So it's in the allowance of that want to come forward. What I see, though, so many people doing is they'll recognize, for instance, they'll just have this surge of excitement for Grey's Anatomy and they'll sit down and watch it. But then they'll let their mind shame them. They'll be saying things like, "Oh, I really should be, tidying up, or I shouldn't let my family see me doing this." I mean, so they do all of these negative behaviors. So another thing I teach is that you really need to do these things that give you pleasure, and then talk yourself through them
Yes.
to affirm and say, "I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm
Right.
doing this because joy is an indication of my best path in life. I'm doing this because it's fun." And so not only do you then affirm the self when you do that, but you prolong the pleasure of the activity you're
Right.
doing. And these are just such simple techniques. They're, like, as I said, they're free and easy. Every technique I teach is something that you could implement right now in your life and in your day and shift your energy.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And you're absolutely right. Pleasure can't be out of defiance. It doesn't, it's never going to connect and it won't be as pleasurable as we want it to be. And I think that, gosh, there's so much wisdom in that. I cannot wait to get my hands on your book. Please tell everybody how they can get their own copy.
So it's available everywhere books are sold. So you can pick your favorite store and go buy it. Or you can head over to my website at sueerhart.com and you'll find links right there. And you can also sign up for my free weekly newsletter that gives you these tidbits and tools and advice every Sunday morning.
Oh, perfect. We will link all of that down in the show notes as well. Is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't give you space for? I feel like I'm so enjoying this conversation that I didn't even properly interview you. I was like, aren't we just sitting next to each other on a plane? This is so fun. I love chatting with you. So please, if there's anything that you didn't get to say, you are welcome.
So I'll just give a little plug for my next book.
Please.
I don't have a release date yet, but the title of the book is Don't Quit Yet. Create Your
Mm.
Dream Career Instead. And it's a book that advocates that if you're looking to make a career transition, a job transition, or even just a big life move, that you don't make the big leap. Instead, you stay put where you've got money coming in, so you feel safe. The job might be familiar to you, so you feel content there, or at least you feel like you can do the job, but stay put. And then the book walks you through a series of exercises to help you better know yourself, know what you want, set yourself up for success for that leap. Because when we leap from something, we take all of our fears and limiting beliefs with us. And the much better path is to stay put, deal with your fears, deal with your limiting beliefs, get to know your core desires, your core wants, and the things that light you up, and then make the transition. So I'm really excited about this next book because I think there are a lot of people, particularly people I saw in the corporate world, who, because they do not see how they could ever possibly transition to
Mhm.
something more fulfilling, they
Mhm.
literally sort of cut off those hopes and dreams and stuff them down and say, well, I could never do that. And so this book really coaxes you to bring all of that forward in the safety of the job you're in.
I love that concept. And it's so true because wherever you go, there you are, right? So there are so many things you can hate your job, but sometimes quitting is just geography. So getting into a place where you are feeling satisfied with what is and eager for more, and that more can be also eager for different. But it's, you said this word earlier and I didn't comment on it, but you talked about alignment. And that is this inner knowing. And sometimes the desire for alignment is coming from contrast, is coming from something that doesn't feel good. And we often think that, well, if I just change the conditions, then I'll feel better. But it's getting into alignment, it's knowing what we want, it's knowing who we are, it's knowing who we're becoming, and being that person, then quitting the job or completing with your marriage or whatever big life thing that you're going to do. But there's something about that work, and it doesn't have to be 5 years, it doesn't have to be 5 weeks, it could be 5 days if you're commit to it and actually take this action. It can be a quantum leap, so it's not a prison sentence. But what happened for me, I'll speak from my own experience when I was what I refer to as sitting in the question of my marriage. That 9 month period, I was anchoring in to the woman that I'm becoming. And I let that project into who I was showing up as a wife. And I was really proud of the way I was showing up. It was different than what I had co created prior to that. So, um, it wasn't as enjoyable for the other party, but I felt really good about it. And that way, when I did communicate what my decision was, that anchoring, as you called it earlier as well, was so solid that as different suggestions were made to me by this other party or different pronouncements of how he thought it was going to be and how disastrous that would be for me, I had this certainty and I had this knowing, so I could weather that storm. And that's something that can help, like you said, when you're transitioning from a job as well. You are so anchored in who you are, who you're becoming, and what you desire that now you take that elevated person to your next opportunity.
Yeah, and I've really seen that, at least for me, the formula for rapidly creating the life I want is to love what is,
Yeah.
to celebrate and love what is, and look for the good in everything in my current experience.
Yes.
And then from that place of celebrating what is, say I want. And that, it's like I create a foundation, I grow to more. I create a foundation, I grow to more. And that has been for me the key to getting the life that I love.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I could obviously talk to you all day long. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your grace, for your presence, for doing this work and then writing books to help people in their own process. You're so generous. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Wendy. It's been a delight to talk to you.
I can't wait to do it again. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.